Yeah. There we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Hope you are having a wonderful day. For those I haven't met before, my name is Lori. I am a business and personal brand success coach who helps freedom loving coaches, consultants, and strategists to grow and scale sustainable, location independent businesses and personal brands. And whether you're a startup or scaling, we can build a business in a way that supports you long term so that you will never need to look back in that rear view mirror at the 9 to 5 life again. And today I am joined by Karen Loftus. She is a recovering HR executive, I love that, who's been on the executive team with 3 companies in her 30-year career. She's worked with Fortune 100 companies, nonprofits, and small businesses alike. Her expertise is as an internal and external consultant to the C-suite, where she focuses on employee engagement, change management, and leadership development. While their corporate careers have allowed Karen and her husband to live in a variety of states, they've been in Scottsdale, Arizona for 20 years now. Karen has an MBA and was double certified as an HR professional. And in her free time, Karen is an oil painter and loves to spoil their granddaughter, Lila. Love that. That's awesome. Welcome, Karen. So happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me, Lori.
So I am very excited to dig into this topic, as I told you before we started, because leadership in general is something that I'm very passionate about. And I also love that you said that you're a recovering HR. That's so funny. That's perfect. So would love to hear a little bit more about your story. And I see that we have some comments here. Hey, Alexandra and Randy and Elena, great to see you all here. Feel free to ask some questions of Karen as we jump in here. So tell us a little bit more about your story. And also, I have that you are a funnel expert. Is that right?
Well, I never like to call myself an expert because there's always somebody better. So I would not use that term because I don't use that term lightly, but we can just kind of let that go if you want.
Oh, well,
I like to be an
sounds like you're
expert,
not very
but
confident in your skills, but yes.
Yeah, well, recovering HR executives tend to know where to draw a line.
Yes, especially in those terms of experts.
Yeah. Oh, because that term. I mean, I think that just so describes me because in sometimes in our life we start out doing something we love and we do, and sometimes we fall into it, right?
Mhm.
And I don't think many people intentionally decide to be an HR executive. And so when you move into that, much like a lot of industries and a lot of jobs, you can either be a subject matter expert in a piece of the world, or
Mhm.
you can be a generalist in the broader world.
Mhm.
And then when you manage it, you have to have all of that experience to manage it. So recovering it is a good thing, and and because when you lead the entire organizational function, there's a whole lot to HR that isn't necessarily fun, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the grievances and the employee relations piece, and you got to make sure you've got the comp and benefits all right, and of course you get to do the training and the development and the consulting and all those fun things. Um, but if, but in the grand scheme of things, it's nice to do the pieces I like to do.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So let's dig into those things, right?
Yeah.
So, well, first, I do want to hear more about the funnel side of things. And I know Alexandra, I'm guessing that's what she was most excited about hearing. She is actually a member of my team. But let's talk about this building a team, right? Because as I said, this is something that I am also very passionate about. And obviously,
Yeah.
as an with an HR background, I imagine this is something that you are very knowledgeable in and passionate about yourself.
Yeah.
And when it comes to that remote space, as well as we are
Right.
growing and scaling, I think it's really important to have these conversations because I know a lot of people that I've talked to and like my clients, they come into their businesses, just saying like, I want to be a coach, or I want to, help people build funnels, or I want to, do email marketing, but they don't say, I want to become a leader. I want to, build a team. Because the thing is a lot of people don't know how to be a leader.
Exactly.
They don't know. And then add the remote aspect to it, and that complicates it even more, because most people are coming from that brick and mortar background of business.
Absolutely.
And we don't know what it's like to
Right.
be not only in the remote space, but to be a leader in the remote space. So
Right. And in the old culture of that command and control culture where you have to have butts and seats and the managers want to see your eyeballs, there was a time where people got promoted because they were a subject matter expert in some piece of the thing, and that translated to some people as, oh, well, you'd be great at this, you'll be great as a leader. Well, those two lines aren't even connected, right?
No.
And the fact that somebody's really good at a function may mean that's what they love to do, and that's where they want to stay. Maybe they want to expand their sphere of influence a little bit around that, or maybe they want to, delve into a little bit different aspects of the business. But just to say that because you're good at X means you'll be a great leader is really a fallacy, I would say. So I think you have to start at the beginning, which is, how do you even get to the point of either acknowledging yourself that you want to be a leader, or that, hey, somebody's tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, it's time for you to be a leader. And you're like, well, wait a minute. What is all that about? And I think that I don't like to get too kind of technical and HR verbiage, but there's a model called the situational leadership model, which is a really perfect way to, I think, explain this. So take it out of the business world. When you started to ride a bike, you had somebody standing beside you, showing you what to do, holding you very tightly, explaining kind of what you were going to be doing, and then you kind of started to do it. You had really no clue. I mean, driving a car, think about brakes and how does that work, right?
Oh, I remember some of my first driving experiences. My parents probably do too.
Yeah. And so you think about that, and that is that first level of the quadrant where they don't know. And they don't know that they don't know oftentimes, right?
Exactly.
And so as you go across this 4-quadrant continuum, you then get to a place where, maybe you only do this thing quarterly. You only run that Excel spreadsheet quarterly, or you only, run to the grocery once a month. I mean, whatever it is, and you're not doing it a lot. Well, you still need your leader support in how to do it because it's infrequent. And so they're going to be there. They're going to be beside you more, but they're not going to be in the trenches with you doing it. And then you get along over to the next quadrant, and it's like, you're good. You're doing this, and you're kind of having the parent in the background going, "You go, girl, you go, keep going. You made it. Make sure you make that turn." Whatever it is that, and that parent, that teacher is off to the side, cheering them on.
Yep.
And then you get to that last quadrant, and that's the person that the boss throws over the shoulder the comment, hey, can you get that Excel spreadsheet together for me by Thursday? And they walk out the door. And the person's absolutely fine with that because they know what they're doing, right?
Yep.
And so the problem I think a lot of leaders have is they don't treat that employee, that staff member, that, person that they have on their team as how they should lead them in that situation. They think they're that person they can always throw that thing over their shoulder at. Or conversely, they're the one that thinks that they always have to be breathing down the neck of that person. And that's not the case. You as a leader need to play 4 different roles depending on where they are in those 4 quadrants for that task. And so for that situation, they need to be the leader in the second quadrant. In that other task, the throw it over your shoulder one, yeah, probably yelling it over your shoulder is absolutely fine. And so you look at that from and I'm going to use the term employee, but I totally understand it could be an independent contractor, could
I
be a
think most
virtual
of us in the
assistant,
remote world are
right,
still
right,
remote.
or where you came from, or it could be a part-time or full-time person. So employee, team member, kind of interchangeable. But the concept of, where is that person in the process and where are you in that process? And can you delineate what the difference is so you know how to lead in the right way? Because it's not a one size fits all thing, right?
No, it isn't. I mean, then you get personalities, so you have experience, you have personalities, and all those other layers that come into being a leader that really complicate things, especially in this remote space, because you don't necessarily have that same connection that you would with somebody in person to even know those things about them.
Right.
So let's talk about, a lot of people in our audience are, at a point where they're solopreneurs or where they maybe have like hired people to help them, but it's like, okay, I hired a web designer. They're not like a freelancer, an independent contractor where they're working as part of my team. I just hired them. So let's talk about that experience of going from being that solopreneur model to actually like scaling your business and growing the team, and what that's like.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that, we step back and why are you a solopreneur entrepreneur? Because you have this great idea about something, whatever that is, a product, service, and you probably are pretty good at it, right? And so that's what started you, and that's the impetus to get you where you are. And so now you decide, oh, I need a VA. Oh, I need a web designer for right now. Oh, I need somebody for my social media, but I don't need them full time. So I'm not going to hire them, but I need an independent contractor. How is that going to work? Well, once you get to that point, you kind of go from being a solopreneur to being a leader, right? There are now people that you need to be working with. And so one of the most important aspects of that, of course, is communication. I think about the virtual assistant a lot because I think we've all used them enough that that you have to be extremely clear with that individual what it is you want done, when it is you need it done, not necessarily how you need it done. I mean, again, and then also by what time you need it done. So, I mean, you have some parameters that you need. And again, theoretically, if you're hiring somebody to do some work, it's because they do it better than you.
Most likely, yeah.
Right.
You can't be the best in everything.
Yeah, and that's okay. I mean, you can step back and say, either I don't like doing this, I'm not good at this, I've never learned how to do this well. I mean, whatever the reason is, you can't do everything, let alone in a 24-hour day. So, you first have to realize that you are not the expert in everything, nor do you have to be. And it's okay to say, I don't know, because that reason of how you do it, they're going to figure that out, right? Unless you're filling out some government form that has to be completed the certain way, okay, you got to do it that way. But that person that's filling it out probably knows that because they've done that, right?
Yeah.
So it's not to say that you need a hands-off approach with them, but you certainly need to give some parameters on the front end because time is money, right? If you think that this is going to be a 2-day turnaround and they haven't gotten it to you in a week, but they've spent 40 hours working on it, you're going to get billed for those 40 hours. How, do you want that? Was that your expectation? It wasn't? Oh, well, did you tell them? Oh, well, and so that whole communication piece is very important. And I tend to use either technology or I'm a fan of Trello boards, for example, where, there are lists of things that I've got to get done, and I have checklists that are attached to doing them, and team members can share those and you can see where you are on things. And it allows me as a leader to kind of step back and see into what's happening, but not necessarily have to be tapping on their shoulder all the same time to say, did you do this? Is that done yet? Right.
Yeah,
And enabling that person to feel free to come to you with questions they have, because we can't read their minds. We don't know. But again, we're not the expert.
Right, exactly. And that's, part of this world too. Like, I
Right.
want to make sure that people are aware of when you are in that remote space and you're hiring freelancers and people who are not employees. You also legally, in the US at least, are not able to tell them how they do things, and you can tell them the end result that they need, but not how to get there. So it's a whole different way of leading people too, because they need to understand the way your business runs. You need to understand that they're the expert, and you need to come together on what that end result is. You can't always tell them how to get there.
Right. And just to be clear, that is one of the checkmark criteria for an independent contractor, right?
Yep.
And so if that, should it ever go to that point where somebody is contesting that, that could turn that individual into an employee, whether you wanted to or not, by action of you telling them how to do the work. So, it's an important aspect from running your business perspective to really get grounded in. But it also makes sense as a leader that, do you want somebody telling you how to do things, everything that you do, that you know how to do, right? Well, so, it's two sides of the coin. Look at it, and it makes sense of both sides from my perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, making yourself available for questions is one thing. Trying to tell people how to do something they already know how to do, like, just not going to serve anybody well.
Right. And, the whole virtual piece of it is just another whole layer to this, right? Because, I think a lot of times pre-COVID, people were very much understanding that an exempt employee, a professional employee who they pay an annual salary to, has a whole lot of flexibility about how they do the work, where they do the work. But part-time employees, there was a thought that, oh, well, if you're a part-time employee, I have to see you. I have to see you do it because I need to trust that you did 4 hours worth of work. And then COVID came along, and so many of us went remote, right? Now, I understand that in a hotel, your housekeeping staff cannot be remote. I get that, right? And there are certainly functions like that. But, you think about how the business has acclimated to that. I was in a resort a while ago, staying for 3 days. And after the first day, when I walked back into the room and the sheets weren't turned, the bed wasn't made and the towels weren't there, I'm like, did they forget us or what? I called down to the desk and they said, oh, well, if you need housekeeping, you need to tell us. So that's what the company did to modify their staffing levels and their processes during this COVID time to reduce the amount of housekeeping work that was needed at that facility. Did I, as a consumer, know that? No. Did it hit me kind of wrong that it happened? Did I understand it? Well, okay. I did in the grand scheme of things. And more importantly, did they actually lose staff as a result of this? And is that change going to continue now forever?
Yeah.
It's kind of like the price of gas. Is that ever going to come back down? Is a gallon of milk, is the price ever going to come down? I don't know.
I think things are going to shift. And I actually, before I did go, the housekeeping hotel one actually kind of like hits me close to home because that's my background is hospitality and tourism management.
Okay.
Before I was in my own business. Not housekeeping in particular. I was sales and marketing and operations, but yeah, I know a lot of people still in that industry, and it has changed, and it probably will shift. And the whole model of business as we know it is completely different than it was 3 years ago, and I don't know that it will go back.
Right.
I don't think it will.
I don't know.
So these are things that not only as remote entrepreneurs that we need to get used to, but just the world in general in terms of, the way we do business and it
Right.
changing. So,
Right. And the global nature. I mean, because it's no longer necessary to have that VA in
mhm,
your next door. I mean, they can be in another country, in a different time zone. I mean, a lot of times if I'm doing clients with meetings with clients after 2 o'clock is when meetings start, because that's the morning in, let's say, Australia
right.
tomorrow, right?
Yeah,
And so
exactly.
and so the whole world is changing in that regard. It's not about the person being next door anymore, which is a great thing from a hiring perspective, because
Mhm,
your world is that much broader for you to find the right person that you
mhm.
need.
Yeah. Um, I agree. It's just I have my team, for instance. We have people in the U.S., we have people in um, Asia, Africa, like all over the world, and it's amazing. And that's actually part of what I love about this remote-based, setup so much, is because it opens up your world, like you said, and just opens up so many more possibilities for qualified people that you can have join your team. But
Yep, yep. Oh my
it
goodness,
also
absolutely.
means too that to a certain point, I think that we have to broaden our way of thinking too, because I know, like,
Yep,
in the US we do things in a certain way and we've done things in a certain way, but you're broadening your team, and the way that you work
absolutely.
with somebody in the Philippines is going to be different than the way you work with someone in the US versus the way you work with somebody in the UK, and because everybody has their own
Right.
methods as well. So that's why it's so important. I think you mentioned like having processes and everything else, kind of documented before you build that team,
Right.
right?
Right. Oh, so, so important. Because I mean, there are things that are not necessarily about how it has to be done, but if you are looking to build your brand, you want consistency,
Right.
right? And so if you put a logo in a certain place on a piece of marketing collateral, maybe that's where you want to do it consistently. If you always use these brand colors, then always use those brand colors.
Mm-hmm.
So, whatever it is, what kind of voice are you using in your training content or in your social media? What does that sound like? Is it very casual and friendly, or is it professional and very succinct? Or what? I mean, what is it? And people that are going to be working for you need to kind of get inside your head to understand that and feel that, so that they're part of it, because really that's what employee engagement is all about, people
Yeah.
wanting to feel connected to the work that's going on.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And just feeling connected to people and the brand and the business. So yeah, I couldn't agree more with you on that.
Right.
Because that is how you build that team environment and that remote environment
Right.
too, is to make everybody feel included and part of that. So while you're not telling them how to do it, you're telling them the end result of what you want as a brand and what you need. And it's just from personal experience, guys, so much easier if you create those processes, those brand standards, all of those things, and document them before you grow your team, as opposed to scrambling when they're asking you all these questions and you're like, well, I don't know, or I don't have that stuff put together yet, and then you're not ready for these people and you're constantly trying to answer questions.
Right.
So document. If you aren't in a place where you're ready to hire team members, doesn't matter. Start documenting things now,
Yeah.
because then
Right.
in a few months or a year, when you're ready to do that, um, you're in a much better position to
Right.
be
Right.
able
And
to
quite
do it
honestly, since
successfully.
you're going to be sharing that information with that new person, if you've already thought it through, then it's going to take less time for you to transfer that knowledge, right?
Yeah,
And you'll have
absolutely.
already, and as you're going through documenting that process, you're going to really start thinking yourself, is this the way I really want to do it? I did
Mm-hmm.
it this way the last time, but is that really what I want? And so you're going to have those internal conversations
Yeah.
with yourself that are going to help kind of solidify the process. So 6 months from now, whenever it is time, you've done the thinking now,
Yeah.
and now you have something, now you can share it, and now they can get to work.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it's actually easy to hire, because I don't know how many times, we're getting close to our time here, but I want to say, like, I don't know how many times people have said to me, that they want to hire a VA or they want to hire someone, mostly VAs, but they don't feel like because they're overwhelmed, but they don't know what kind of work to give them or what work they should be doing.
Right.
And when you don't have those processes, that's how you're going to feel. When you have those documented, then it's easy, because people don't hire because they don't know what they should actually be giving to that person.
Absolutely.
It's more feels like more work for you to hire somebody, because you have to teach them or show them all of those things. If you do it now instead of then, it's going to just be easy. You can hire somebody, get them started, and they can help you.
Absolutely.
So, okay, well, awesome. So we've had a lot of good information here. We didn't talk about funnels.
There's so much.
So we talked a lot about HR, but let's just quickly before we wrap up here. So you do also do funnels, yes?
I do, but you know what? The thought I guess I would leave kind of goes back to the process conversation about, because really it's kind of like charting out the process about what you want that funnel to look like, right?
Yep.
And so it can start as simple as that. Just start there and identify what you want the outcome to be, where the process is starting, and what you got to do. And then once you build that out and you see what that funnel, for lack of a better word, looks like, then you can put in place automation measures.
Yep.
I'm assuming automation measures, not necessarily, but to help you get from this step to this step to this step, from whether they click a button and that automatically sends an email, and then 2 days after that, another email gets sent to, whatever that process is. But this is the quiet time you need to sit down and think, which as solopreneurs and entrepreneurs, we so often do not give ourselves that time, right? So you need that quiet time to think. So kind of starts with thinking and then writing down the processes. Start there. That'll be a good place.
Yeah. Same thing as when you're wanting to build your team. So
right. There you go.
Okay.
We did talk about it.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, well, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much, Karen. So if people want to connect with you, I'm going to pop it up here, but what is the best way to do that?
I think LinkedIn would be a great way to do that. It's always a good way to connect with people. And should you have any interest in, any of the job aids or, infographics that I have on teaming and building rapport and creativity, I'm certainly willing to share any of that.
Yes. Okay, awesome. So definitely reach out. And someone, just said overthinking is a trap. I don't know who that was, because my comments aren't updating. It doesn't show your name, but yes, it absolutely is. Do not get stuck in that trap, guys.
Right.
And this has been fantastic. And please, if this is something that you want to discuss more, or kind of in that position of not knowing where to go next, please reach out to Karen. And either way, just connect on LinkedIn, because that's always good. You never know when you may need her.
That's right.
Okay. Any final words of wisdom before we close out?
Well, I would just say to take time to know where you're going, to be okay with letting go of the stuff that you can let go of, because that's what your team is going to be there to do, to help you support it.
Absolutely. That sounds easy, but it's a lot more difficult than it can sound.
Absolutely.
But yes, fantastic advice. So thank you, everyone, or thank you, Karen, and thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And also just want to remind you, if you are looking to build and scale your business and to build that powerful personal brand that helps you to attract aligned clients using aligned and authentic marketing strategies to help you be able to leave your 9-to-5 life in the rear view, reach out to myself or any of the admins in our Facebook group, and we will be able to see how we might be able to help you to reach those goals for yourself in your business in the next year. So that has been wonderful. Thank you so much, Karen, for joining us, and thank you, everybody else, for tuning in.
Thank you.